looks so great to be back again and having all of you guys here. And not my iPad right now. So please join in, hopefully it comes, with live demo praying, because even though VueJS Amsterdam is like a class reunion for me, I'm super happy to have so many new faces here, because there's one thing which is a first time for me as well. And you see, I don't have a clicker. I have a small pencil. My hands are shaking, bear with me please, because this is the first time I enter any stage without having actual slides. So I'm a little scared, but to have you all with me give me a sense of security, and I hope I can show or basically share the sense of security with you, or at least a pretty handy sketch note handout later on. So without further ado, welcome to my session. This will be my sketchbook, and we will do live sketchnoting together on Vue security. And I stop talking and start when it comes to the relevant stuff. The first thing I will draw is a castle. A castle because I think all of our applications, all of our projects, no matter if it's Vue or not, they are basically castles because they have lots of things which are important to protect. May it be a feature, but especially all of the data, all of the information your user has, the identity, which is the most important thing in my opinion. And it's pretty similar in real life as well, no matter if it's in the medieval times or if it's in basically all media, movies where a castle is. Castles are under siege, right? I don't know how many of you guys work with React sometimes as well. At least I do. However, I guess some of you guys who work with React didn't have a holy night, silent night, right? Because around like Christmas, there has been a remote server execution security issue. So yes, we cannot feel safe. We need to be really careful when it comes to our application, and especially when it comes to the identity of our users and all of those things. Because there's lots of people living inside of this castle who are worth it to be protected, no matter if it's React, no matter if it's Angular or Vue. And even if Vue has our back already, let me quickly copy the Vue logo because I don't want to waste too much time drawing it and colorizing it. We need to protect it to keep the cats here secure. We're gonna finish that real quick. The first thing I want to do to know how can I be having a stressless Christmas with my family or a birthday or basically any other day is checking up what does Vue for us. How does Vue keeps us secure? And it does have our back, right? So let's copy paste this real quick. And there's one thing where Vue is helping us a lot. So all user-provided content, may it be in templates, especially when it comes to the template syntax, is automatically escaped. Let me quickly write that down. Content automatically. With escape, I mean like if there's some weird person trying a JavaScript injection, so basically trying to inject JavaScript into an input field. This typical, hey, there's a script inside of my input field and being executed. So this will be escaped automatically. You don't need to do anything. We will get to cross-site scripting a little later as well in injection, so I will be pretty short right now. So everywhere where you see the wonderful, oh, it doesn't need to be perfect right now, right? So where you see the curly braces, you know there's escaping in place, but it's also with the render functions. So let's say template and render functions. I'll be quick, but also attribute bindings as well. Attribute bindings. So the typical title one you may have used yourself is secure when it comes to cross-site scripting as well. However, I guess it's too much of an ask to expect that Vue is fixing everything for us, right? So is it enough? I don't think so. It's still important for us to be the last line of defense. because we do know we can learn and we will want to keep everyone secure, right? So, okay. How do I start? How do I learn about threats which I don't know yet? Or how do I learn what's up there? And there's a system which helps me, and where I could find 1 or 2 entries connected to Vue as well. But to stay inside of our image as our Vue developers or a Vue project as a castle, I want to start with the underground, the supply. May it be the water supply, a sewer, nutrition, all the things a castle needs to be working. In Vue terms, this might be all the packages you use, all the dependencies. And there, I found some CVEs, so to say. So this is the CVE, common vulnerability and exploitations, is a system to catalog and prioritize security issues. And there's 2 when it comes to Vue. And 2 of those are connected to those water supplies. It's to the supply chain. So we will talk about supply chain failures, right? The first, let me quickly check if I can show it here, if the internet is kind to me, and it looks like it's kind to me, is in IATN, which is a package which I guess many of us use for internationalization. And there was a prototype pollution inside of the handle.json function, which is pretty scary, right? But also there's another CVE, so another security risk we would need to take a look. It's connected to redos. That's basically a denial of service angle caused by a regular expression. I will consider that dependency as well. So yes, there could be an inefficient evaluation in parse HTML causing your server to halt, denial of service. So yes, supply chain is important, and I would like to draw it as a well, because water supply, I guess it's a wonderful metaphor to describe it, right? So let's get a well built up. Yeah, my hand's a little shaking. I'm sorry about that. But I guess it's okay, because a well doesn't need to be perfectly aligned when it comes to the bricks, right? So yes, we do have our well. There you go, it's open. And there's lots of weird dependency issues which might poison the well. And I'm not that great at drawing bottles, so please, hopefully I'm not the only one in this room who's not able to do that. But I hope you can still see this should be a bottle with a content which you shouldn't drink, right? We don't want to be poisoned. So there you go. It's filled with pretty ugly stuff. The ugly stuff being outdated dependencies, dependencies having security issues, or worse, not being maintained at all. Let me quickly toss the poison into the well. Bad stuff. So yes, be really careful when it comes to your dependencies. Do you remember, like, every few months there's an npm package being poisoned as well? Because contributors are still human, and I guess being phished is pretty easy. So yes, you cannot feel secure here. So let's see what we can do there. Oh. I wanted to move it away because we can close the lid. Closing the lid are the fixes we can hopefully do when it comes to supply chain issues. And there I want to do a shout out to Circle. In case you haven't been here before, check the recording of his tree shaking talk, because it showcases really well what happens and when you don't mind your build and how you can secure your build. So this is important, mind your build. Obviously, I want to write it down. I hope it's obvious, but mind your dependencies as well. Mind your dependencies. Please send help if you cannot read my handwriting. And cease. This means, that doesn't need to mean that you need to check every of your dependency on your own, or basically read through all the CVEs, or be online on Twitter all the time, 24/7. That's not healthy. But there's a couple of tools helping you with that, and many of them are open source as well. I'm thinking about retire.js, for example, or the OWASP dependency checkers. There's so much dependency mapping, but also if you happen to see Jakob's talk yesterday, he was talking about the dependency cruisers. Visualizing your dependencies will help you as well. So consider that. And last but not least, I guess it's not new for many of you people, but if you do AI-generated code, vet it. No matter if it's by Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, if it's written by an agent or written by yourself or assessed, vet your AI code. Redos attacks are my favorite example when it comes to just copy-pasting regex and hoping that it works out. Vet your AI code. So yes, this is all I want you to share for now when it comes to supply chain issues. But a word supply chain issues, I already heard at another point. And I was thinking, okay, how can I learn about general risk? How can I learn about new risk? There's an interesting project helping a lot. And you might have heard the short term of it already. I want to draw it as a shield. Like this. It's interesting that it's one of the most weirdest drawings I do. But I shouldn't be perfectionistic. The group I want to talk about has a certain name which has the word WASP in it. And I already called it out for a tool. It's called OWASP, which is code for Open Web Application Security Project. And as the name already implies, its goal is to raise security inside of the web or basically anywhere. And they do a lot of initiatives to help us to stay secure. For example, I love their sophisticated application where I see what can go wrong, basically. So it is broken by purpose, if you want to call it like that. And all of those people are open source people and sometimes even volunteers, which is super cool. But there's a nonprofit behind it as well. It's the OWASP Foundation. So yes, there's lots of people taking care of us. Hopefully I can write normal eyes. Yay! So yes, the OWASP people are there so we don't need to fight alone to protect our castle. They are a guide as well. And the ranking they have. Supply chain issues are at I guess it's the third place right now. I want to quickly touch upon the first rank because it's super important, albeit it's not a completely front-end related topic, but there's still a lot of things we can do. I'm talking about broken access control. Access control is important to make sure that your user only does the things you allow them to do. So this is basically if we take our castle analogy into account. It is basically important to have wardens in place. Or I don't like to call it gatekeepers because this sounds so negative, but it's basically those serious-looking people having a spear and a shield and basically block the way if you're not allowed to enter something. So let's give our own warden a little helmet and an armor so it can really protect our entry points of our castle. I will give it the shield we already have. It's a little big, I think. Let's make it a little smaller. There we go. And give it a spear. So the obvious choice to help our wardens is implementing access control. Most of it is done server-side, and there's tools like the OpenFGA solution, which is hosted by the CNCF, OpenCNCF, which is pretty trustworthy if you ask me. And you don't need to make sure to build a complete access control layer when it comes to having relationship-based access control impliers and stuff. You can just use this open source tool for that. But as a front-end dev, in charge of our Vue application, there's a pretty easy way to do our part, and it's the Vue router. Let's make it a little prettier right now. So this is our wonderful broken access control warden, so it's never broken at all. And this is a simplified code of a Vue router, where I basically went for a small snippet here to see what we can do. In our case, let's imagine we have our castle and there's an admin room and only admins are allowed to enter that room. So we put there a warden, and it will look at our token, a JWT token, for example, and see if we are allowed to enter. And we will check the require admin flag. It will be set to 2 for the route to the admin room. It's done by this statement here. We will check it here. And then if it doesn't have the check on the papers, on its token, we will say, nah. We will stamp it 403 forbidden, go away, please. It's important to note, though, that this is only client-side. You still need the backend here, so please really think about going for an access control mechanism, maybe OpenFGA, maybe whatever. My colleague did a wonderful session yesterday, so if you're interested to learn about access control mechanisms, authorization, authentication in this regard, please check his recording. And now we will get to the most important part, and I briefly mentioned it before. Let's go back to the castle analogy. I will quickly copy that one, and I didn't want to go completely out. But there. This is the problem with shaky hands, I guess. There you go. We will go for our little castle here. Copy it. And then imagine an inside job. Because we talked about our supply, we talked about our personal wardens and bodyguards and all those people. But what happens if we have an inside job in our code yard? What happens if there's an imposter who already smuggled stuff in? So I will basically go for another cat here. And this time it doesn't look that friendly. I guess I will give it a hoodie or something, so it looks even more like an imposter, like these capes you used in Halloween or in movies. Yeah, it looks a little messy right now. I will clean it up in a bit. Like this. Super imposter, right? I was thinking about drawing an actual imposter, but doing gaming references is sometimes a little risky, so I'm not doing that. But this is the imposter. Please imagine the music to it. So let's go. This is an evil person. And it's not only the person, it has a box. And this box is filled with evil things. May it be malicious code, may it be a payload which does weird things. It can be a script tag which the attacker wants to execute. This would be the JavaScript injection. Or it could be an SQL injection sneaking in some queries being executed alongside our code. So cross-site scripting is basically all kinds of injection. And this is super dangerous for us in the front end because it is the entry point for that. So in really simple words, the imposter tries to trick us or to trick the castle to execute their code. To execute. And there has been a CVE, I guess it's not completely 2 years ago, where this happened in the Vue template compiler. So again, it was runnable to client-side cross-site scripting, and we saw it already in the VIDN one. It was a prototype pollution, and I already forgot to explain it at that point. But just to get back to that, a prototype pollution is basically trying to inject weird code to the object prototype. And I would assume this is pretty central part of the application, right? So the same, if you feel poison into water, it will trickle down. So yes, prototype pollution is pretty scary, I guess. So yes, this is a point where we really need to take care and do our homework to keep everyone here secure. Let's make it a little easier. And yes, Vue is already protecting us a little bit. However, there's some edge cases you need to be aware where the automatic escaping might not be in place. The first one is an obvious one, and this is taken from the Vue documentation, but I cannot stress it enough. It is this line here. So basically, trying to use a template directly and getting it executed, getting it compiled. Never do this. Never use untrusted templates. Because here, you have an arbitrary JavaScript execution. And it can get even worse if you have server-side rendering. This is a direct server breach. Because if the user has this provided string, it will write the rules. So yes, be really, really careful when it comes to that. Never, ever, 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 ever do this. Don't. Another, a little more sneakier exception is the VHTML directive. It is this one here. When it comes to HTML injection, which is basically this one, this directive disables the guards, the castle guards, so the auto-escaping we talked about before. So if you need to render raw HTML directly, be really, really careful. See this example here. It is an image which is user provided, but if it cannot be rendered because there's no source here, it will go to the on error and there is an alert. So be careful to use it. If you want to use it, please think about sanitization here. I like to go for DOM Purify, but there's lots of libraries you can use. So basically going here and sanitizing the input. Okay, this is a bad place to draw. Maybe here it's better. It can work like a filter. So basically doing all the sanitization for you and render any scripts unusable. There's another place which is especially interesting for SQL injection as well, the URL injection. So I'm talking about href here. There you need to make sure to take care of the sanitization as well. It's pretty similar. So make sure that your URL will adhere to protocols. So if it's not HTTPS, HTTP, or MAC2, it will do sanitizing as well. So protocols. Okay, that's a little small. Plus stripping out everything which might be of risk. All right. So this is it when it comes to some edge cases. But there's one which is a little more tricky because the culprit is not technically our Vue application. It's something different, but we need to stop people using it. Imagine the following things. We have another evil cat, not in green and black, please, so evil cat. And the evil cat wants to trick the castle into doing things, but gaslighting the people doing things. So they basically do something completely different than what they perceive. So I will finish this imposter from before because it's back again. And it's basically using a mask or an invisible cloak. It has its attack vector, so basically a really dangerous and sus button we shouldn't click. But one way to make people click it without knowing that they click it is using the cloak. Let's imagine it's like a curtain. So the button is still there, but it's basically covered by something looking legit. And in worst case, by something looking exactly like our project. A legit friendly button. So the user will click here instead of our website, which means that the attacker embedded or even mimics our website. This is called click checking. And what I basically talked about right now, it's one variant. There's one more recent one, which was interesting, especially if you're taking care of accessibility and password managers. There were some malicious sites where the attackers hid hidden input fields listening to the autocomplete functionality of password managers. And this is super scary because every one of us doesn't like to enter passwords, right? And for people who have cognitive disabilities, they need it. So basically getting accessibility and security into competition. But I will not get too deep into it because otherwise I will not mind your time. But yes, these are lots of angles where click checking could lead a user to do certain things without being aware of it. But there's something how we can block those attacks. So let's get back to a warden. We will give him another way of keeping us safe. So there's the friendly warden. I will copy it real quick to be mindful of your time. And hopefully I find the right spot. There it is. And of course, the warden will keep their shield. So it's not like I really remove it. But let's imagine we will take a look at the backside of the shield. So like how's it called? I don't know how it's called in English, but those small pieces of paper we wrote when we were in an exam, right? With some, let's call it tips. So we have a document here for the wardens. In best case, they know it by heart, but they have a document as well. And on it, there's like requests to the wardens who is okay to be let in or to use our library or our books or whatever is inside of the castle, and who's not able to use that. And yes, this is basically, in the real world, it's called CSP, or Content Security Policy, which is our ultimate force field to try to get inside jobs under control. CSP is basically a HTTP response header that defines where the browser is allowed to load resources from and where not, and defines some rules to get that set in stone. This is a small snippet how you could do it. The first one is basically blocking everything. So this one says like, no, we will not be allowing any other resources being loaded or embedded. Or the other one, basically specifying trusted sources. So in the castle analogy, sister castles. This is nothing we can configure in plain metal Vue. So if you only use Vue and nothing else, you need to use your hoster's configuration. But if you have Nuxt in place, you can use its configuration directly, for example, by going by Nitro's rules, difficult word, or even easier, use the Nuxt security module because it gives you the opportunity in its configuration to automatically generate strict CSP headers. So yes, there's lots of ways on how to do it. And I already see we're running out of time, so let me wrap up real quick. And let's keep it a little more general, so it's not only OWASP. There's a logo. I had a clipboard, so I don't need to completely hurry up. So our Vue shield. Let's define our Vue shield. This is basically everything I want you to remember when you go out of our talk and need to wait for me to merge all those sketch notes into one document. So the first thing is Vue already has our back in a way. So it automatically escapes some user-provided content. But that's not all. So we still need to be the last line of defense. It's still important for us to do our homework, for example, especially when it comes to XSS, cross-site scripting. Mind the extra mile, no matter if it's the Vue HTML directive or href or click checking, go the extra mile. Sometimes be a little more strict when it comes to sanitization using tools, stuff like that. Mind your dependencies, no matter if it's inside of your build, inside of all the packages you include. And don't ignore dependabot, please. I'm sometimes guilty of that too, but it's not a good idea to do that. Don't underestimate Vue router when it comes to access control, but be aware that it's only client-side. Use content security policy. And remember that there's a community helping us. We're not alone. There's OWASP. They have lots of resources to help us guard our applications. A small other shout out, if you work with Vue and you see something suspicious, or maybe even a security issues, please don't hesitate to contact the team so they can fix it and fix it for everyone and keep us all secure. And I guess that's about it. The full sketch notes, so everything we were drawing together, I will just merge it into one big document so we have actual sketch notes. You can use it as a cheat sheet. Come back in like 1 or 2 hours. As soon as I can, I will upload them under the QR code. And if you need something to read while waiting for the sketch notes, there's a QR code showing what I'm working on right now. So with that being said, my name is Ramona Schwering. I'm a developer advocate at Okta of Zero, and I'm so happy to have you here. I felt so secure to do this live thing, which was plainly scary, but you made it worth it. Thank you so much for being here. Find me somewhere around here on all social media platforms you know. Thank you so much for being with me.